Yes. Thank you very much. So there's still the square root. So now we got to still take the square root of it. So we'll take the square root, second, square root, and then I'll go second, and so I did second, square root, and then second, and answer, then hit equals, and I get 26. So A is equal to 26.09290,749. Okay? Now that's A. That's our base. Okay? Alright? So, the base is equal to A. So what we're going to say is, we're going to list that in part 4. We're going to say 4 is the base is equal to A. Okay? Definition of what? Definition of a base of a triangle, right? So 4 is definition of a base of a triangle. Okay? Okay? And so now we can substitute that in and say the base is equal to 26.09290,749. Okay? So we have the base. And that's good. If you guys see that thing stop, please tell me so I can start it again. Okay? Alright. So we have the base. Now we need the height. Okay? Step 5. That was just substitution, right? Okay. So to find the height, okay, I need to know this angle. Okay? Now here's the cool part. I have this angle in this side, right? So now I could use this angle and this side because I have that side. So I can use the law of sines. Because the law of sines says I only need 2 sides and 2 angles. Well, I don't have 2 angles, but I have 2 sides that I'm looking for, right? I need this angle so I can use that side. And I have this angle and this side now. So I don't have to go back to law of cosines to solve for the angle, right? To use this angle solution. I don't have to do that. I can do something much easier, okay? I can use sine, let's write this a little smaller. Sine A over A is equal to sine C over C. And that is the law of cosines theorem. Okay? The law of cosines lets me say, hey, if I have this side and the angle, and I have this side, then I can find that angle. Okay? So what do I got to do now? Plug it in. Woo! Okay, so sine, what's the angle A? 137. 137. Sorry about that. What's A?
2 whatever.
Isn't that 26.09 blah blah blah. Now you have to put in that whole number. That's why I'm hoping it's still here. Okay? Now, actually, let's erase that. Let's take a step back. It'll be much easier to solve this for C and then plug it in. Does that make sense? Otherwise, we're moving numbers all over the place and it gets kind of messy. So what do we want? We want C, correct?
Yes.
Alright, so let's move everything else over. So how do I move this C over? I do the opposite, right? If it's dividing, I
multiply it.
That's right. So I'm going to multiply this by C and this by C. Right? So I get C times the sine of A over little a. So little c times the sine of big A over little a is equal to the sine of big C. Right? And we're going to put that big C as purple just so we know what we're looking for. Okay? Now, what did we do to both sides to get there? What's it called? We multiplied to both sides, right? So multiplication property of equality. Multiplication property of equality. That's a Chili Peppers song for all you old people out there. Okay. So I just like to call it multiplication prop equals. Okay? So once we do that one time, then I can then I don't have to write the whole thing out next time. I can use my shortened version. Okay? Alright, next. How do I get the angle by itself? I have to use this sine inverse. Right? So part A, 8. Let's see here. Let's go with black or blue. Let's go blue. 8 is that the sine inverse. Okay? Or, and we did this yesterday, we talked about this, the arc sine. Okay? So there's two different ways to write the same thing. I'm going to write this in green. The arc sine, okay, of C sine A over little a. Or up here, C sine A over little a. It's the same thing, okay? If you want to call it the inverse or if you want to call it the arc sine. The arc sine just means exactly what it sounds like. The arc. The angle, right? The inverse, that's weird. I don't like that. But that's the way it's written on your calculators. It's a non-mathematical way of looking at it. Pretty much some doomcuff got a hold of a calculator and created this and made this, and then nobody questioned it because he obviously knew what he was doing. So now all the calculators have it. But you'll see that smarter calculators, the ones made for engineers and whatnot, they'll use a sine, arc sine, okay? You guys can use whichever one you want. Your calculator has this. If you look at your phones, I think Apple uses the a sign. I'm not sure. Alright, so then, so this is number 8, right? And basically 8 tells me that it's the sine inverse theory. So it's the definition.
I don't think they do.
Of the inverse sine. Then I think it's of the inverse sine. Sorry about that. I think it's the other ones, the androids use a sine. Okay. So now we have that. So now we can plug it in, right? We know what it's going to be, right? And that equals C, right? So that's equal to C. Does that make sense? So now we're going to come up here to 9, right? And we're going to say C is equal to